Israel-Gaza-Iran War News Live Update. What Israel can teach America on the field. America has never defeated Islamic terrorists over land. Islamic terrorists rule Afghanistan and Iraq after thousands died. Many prominent current and former defense officials who handled both disasters, despite zero wins, have criticized Israel for not following suit. Former General David Petraeus and current Joint Chiefs Chair General C.Q. Brown all criticize Israel for not following the coin paradigm. Chief Brown stated, "Not only do you have to actually go in and wipe out whatever adversary you are up against, you have to go in, retain the territory and then stabilize it." Unfortunately, this paradigm failed and left many widows and orphans. The U.S. lost wars, reputation, and young men for nearly 50 years trying to destroy guerrilla armies through conventional combat and territory stabilization. What evidence do we have? IDF abandoned this common thinking for another strategy. It has deployed its manpower to assault opposing forces, moving fast and unexpectedly, rather than aiming to hold any single location. This technique has hindered Hamas' war plan, which, like jihadis in Iraq and Afghanistan, relied on terror strikes to tie military troops in place, force them to defend and police a territory, and then exploit their weaknesses to launch ambushes. Israel learned a harsh lesson on October 7. Defense no longer interests it. Instead, the first war strategy was to keep terrorist troops on the defensive. Complaints that Israel must reclear captured territories are misguided. The enemy populace supports terrorists, hence the area cannot be cleared or stabilized. Once Israel controls terrorist infrastructure, it can better comprehend their operations. Israel surprised and captured much of Islamic Jihad and some Hamas commanders when it re-cleared Al-Shifa hospital. Re-clearing is a strength because Israel can surprise terrorists in old positions. Israel fights to defeat enemy forces wherever they operate, not to capture land. The measure of effectiveness will not be enemy killed, General McChrystal told the Senate about his 2009 Afghanistan plan. McChrystal's plan killed many Americans. Israel hopes McChrystal is incorrect. It measures effectiveness that way. Holding and stabilizing land, the coin model, slows armies in defensive mode, while Israel's aggressive approach plays to its strengths. The IDF excels at fast assaults but struggles with defense. Coin played to Israel's weaknesses and the terrorists' strengths, as it did in Iraq and Afghanistan, but eliminating it has made the IDF's campaigns more effective, even though they're far from over. Coin enthusiasts tout their Iraq successes against ISIS. But such victories pitted Islamic terrorists against each other. They want Israel to pit the PLO against Hamas, but the PLO is hesitant to fight Hamas, and lost terribly the last time it tried, and the consequence would be the same devastation Iraq had from Shiite terrorism. Coin in Muslim nations is problematic because whoever wins, we lose. Coin in Iraq gave the country to Iran, whereas coin in Afghanistan supported an inept warlord and kleptocrat coalition that needed U.S. military help. Both paths led to dead ends and neither is available to Israel. Some former defensive officials in the Biden administration have suggested finding Muslim states to stabilize Gaza. Egypt, which controls the Rafah entry into Gaza, tried to thwart an Israeli push to hide the enormous Gaza to Egypt tunnels. Egypt shut off aid to Gaza after Israel entered Rafah to create another humanitarian crisis and allow Hamas to retake control. That is what Israel's potential Muslim partners are doing behind the scenes. That was also America's Muslim allies' behavior. Pakistan held Osama bin Laden in a military town as America sought for him. Qatar hosted 9/11 mastermind Khalid Sheikh Mohammed, and Saudi Arabia, which provided most hijackers, and our other regional friends defended them in Gitmo. Israel views Arab Muslim partners more realistically than D.C. Generations of peace accords overseen by D.C., starting with the Camp David Accords, allowed Egypt to recover territory it had lost in a war without offering more than the coldest peace, and then the Oslo Accords and the Israeli withdrawal from Gaza gave the territory to Hamas, enabling October 7. The Camp David Accords, Oslo Accords, and disengagement allowed Hamas to govern Gaza, connect it to Egyptian territory, and force Israel to refight the battles it should have left behind in the 1950s because there was no security zone. October 7th was impossible if Israel controlled Sinai and Gaza. October 7th happened because Israel prioritized diplomacy and peace over strategy. It ultimately prioritizes strategy over diplomacy after October 7th. Nation building, which politicians call a day-after plan, is not on the agenda. Israel is not attempting to hold or stabilize territory. Such considerations will only arise after the ground situation has changed dramatically. Destroying Islamic terrorist bases and infrastructure is the priority. Biden administration opponents say war collateral damage will help Hamas to attract more men, but Israelis know that giving terrorists power allows them to recruit. Allowing Hamas to rule Gaza for 17 years strengthened its army. Israel wants to dismantle organized Hamas. The war aims to eliminate its leaders and break down the enemy. Secretary of State Blinken stated on CBS News that if they leave Gaza, chaos, anarchy, and Hamas will return. Chaos and anarchy are better than Hamas, though not ideal. Israel would rather live close to Haiti than Iran. Islamic terrorists fighting territorial warring gangs are better than rocket and missile builders. Israel is using crude realpolitik after October 7th. It's insufficient, but it's more realistic than the nation-building and counterinsurgency rabbit hole that sucked up a generation of our best fighting men and left them despairing. Israel wants to minimize casualties and maximize results. Our politicians and generals could learn from that. IDF is not digging wells, winning hearts and minds, or sharing 3 cups of tea with terrorists. Its soldiers push and engage hostile forces to reveal their leaders and command structure. We utilized military force for political and diplomatic goals in Afghanistan and Iraq, while Israel uses it for military goals. Amazingly smart idea. Perhaps our leaders and generals should examine it next time we fight.